The Foster family's historic wooden two-story house stood proudly against the crisp November sky in Boston's affluent suburban neighborhood. Fallen maple leaves carpeted the front yard like a patchwork quilt, heralding winter's approach with their vibrant reds and golds. I, Elena Foster, stood by the bay window, both hands cradling my heavily pregnant belly, taking slow, deliberate breaths to ease the growing pressure in my lower back. For me, this pregnancy was nothing short of miraculous after 7 grueling years of fertility treatments and 2 devastating miscarriages. The baby had been conceived just when I'd finally started to accept that motherhood might not be in her future. Every morning since, I had whispered silent thanks for this precious life growing inside me. Mom, look at my science project. Zoe's enthusiastic voice echoed from the living room, pulling me from my reverie. I carefully navigated the stairs, one hand on the polished oak banister, and paused to admire the remarkably detailed solar system model my gifted 8-year-old daughter proudly displayed. The precision of planetary orbits and the proportional sizing would impress even her science teacher. It was clearly state competition material. The meticulousness of the work reflected Zoe's exceptional intellect and attention to detail. This is extraordinary, Zoe. I smiled warmly, gently running my fingers through my daughter's chestnut curls. The proportions are perfect. Jupiter is exactly the right size compared to Saturn, I said. Zoe beamed at my knowledgeable praise. She had skipped a grade at school, with teachers constantly marveling at her unusual aptitude for both scientific concepts and artistic expression. Her maturity often caught adults off guard, making them forget they were speaking with an 8-year-old. Do you think Dad will like it? Zoe asked hopefully. Is he coming home early enough to see it? She asked me. At Zoe's question, my expression darkened momentarily, a flash of disappointment crossing my features. My husband, Jason, had recently taken a high-pressure position as sales director at a cutting-edge medical technology startup and traveled constantly. Our family time had dwindled to brief, distracted evenings and hurried weekend mornings. Dad has that important investor meeting tonight, sweetheart, but he promised to look at it first thing tomorrow morning, I replied gently, though a knot of worry tightened in my chest. Jason's exhaustion had become a constant presence in our home, and meaningful family conversations had grown increasingly rare. While he seemed outwardly excited about our second child, I sensed a disconnect that troubled me deeply. Before my maternity leave, I had thrived as the children's department head at Boston Central Library, organizing popular storytelling workshops that local parents raved about. Being confined at home chafed against my naturally active temperament, but ensuring this miracle baby's safe arrival outweighed everything else. In the afternoon, I prepared a nutritious dinner for Zoe while mentally reviewing my hospital checklist. Just 1 week until my due date. The carefully packed hospital bag sat by the door, and tiny onesies and swaddles, washed in gentle detergent, waited neatly folded in drawers. We had decided to name the baby Oliver after Jason's grandfather. Then the unexpected sound of the front door opening startled me out of my thoughts. Jason was home hours earlier than anticipated. Dad, come see my solar system. Zoe's delighted voice was followed by Jason's weary attempt at enthusiasm. Wow, that's genuinely impressive, Zoe. Jason nodded appreciatively. You've got real scientific talent there, he said. I emerged from the kitchen, wiping my hands on a dish towel. Jason looked more than tired. He looked depleted. His designer tie hung loosely around his neck, his custom shirt collar rumpled. He approached me with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, briefly admiring my pregnant form before giving me a light, distracted kiss. His phone buzzed in his pocket, and I noticed him anxiously checking it before turning it face down. The investor meeting wrapped up early, he offered without elaboration. How are you feeling? Jason asked, his tone suggesting obligation rather than genuine concern. Any contractions? I'm okay, I replied, studying his face with concern. My back is aching, but Dr. Morrison says it's perfectly normal at this stage, I said. That night, after Zoe had gone to bed, the couple sat in the living room watching a documentary neither was truly following. Jason, unusually affectionate, draped his arm around my shoulders and buried his face in my hair, breathing deeply. Elena, I want you to know how truly grateful I am to have you in my life, he said. The unexpected sentiment caught me off guard, stirring both warmth and suspicion. Jason then launched into practical discussions about post-birth arrangements. His parents lived across the country and couldn't easily travel for the birth, while my parents' health issues prevented them from making the journey from Chicago. We agreed that our friend Vanessa, who was also my obstetrician, would be their primary support person during those crucial first days. Late that night, I jolted awake with a gasp of pain that stole my breath away. Labor had begun unexpectedly, a full week before her due date. Jason was scheduled to leave for an important sales conference in Chicago the following morning, his presentation materials already packed and waiting by the door. "I'll call Vanessa," I managed through gritted teeth as another contraction gripped me. "You should still go to your conference," I said. Jason hovered uncertainly by the bedside, his face a mask of conflicted emotions. After a moment's hesitation, he reluctantly nodded, accepting my pragmatic suggestion. Vanessa arrived within 20 minutes, her medical bag in hand, immediately assessing me with professional efficiency while maintaining the warmth of their friendship. Before we left, Zoe appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Mom, Dad," she whispered with childlike solemnity, "please bring my baby brother home soon." By the time we reached Massachusetts General Hospital, where Vanessa had arranged for my admission through her professional connections, the contractions were intensifying at an alarming rate. "This is progressing much faster," Vanessa observed with clinical concern, immediately calling Jason to update him. After 6 hours of grueling labor that tested my limits of endurance, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy, Oliver Foster. The tiny miracle with a shock of dark hair breathed softly against my chest, his perfect features a blend of both parents. A day after giving birth, I rested against the hospital pillows, my body aching with the after effects of labor. Though exhaustion weighed heavily on me, the sight of baby Oliver sleeping peacefully in the clear bassinet beside my bed filled me with profound joy. Morning sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting gentle patterns across the sterile hospital room. The door opened after a brief knock, and Jason appeared with an elaborate bouquet of roses and lilies. He had canceled his sales conference presentation and taken the first morning flight back to Boston after receiving Vanessa's call. "Elena, you were incredible." Jason's voice held genuine admiration as he approached the bed. "He's absolutely perfect," he said. Jason carefully lifted Oliver from the bassinet, cradling him with the tentative hands of a new father. As he gazed at his son, Elena noticed something troubling in his demeanor. Though clearly moved by Oliver's arrival, Jason seemed distracted, his eyes repeatedly darting toward the doorway as if expecting or dreading someone's arrival. "Is everything all right?" I asked, maternal intuition already raising alarms. "You seem on edge," I said. "No, nothing at all." Jason shook his head too quickly, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Just waiting to hear if the VP covered my presentation. They're still blowing up my phone despite everything." His explanation made sense, but something in his delivery felt rehearsed. Before I could probe further, our conversation was interrupted by a nurse entering the room. The woman's name tag read Audrey Parker, RN, OB specialist. She moved with practiced efficiency, her smile overly bright as she began checking my vitals. "How are we feeling this morning, Mrs. Foster?" Audrey asked cheerfully, wrapping the blood pressure cuff around my arm. "Has the post-delivery discomfort subsided at all?" she asked. As she spoke, Audrey flashed a warm smile at Jason, who barely acknowledged her with a tight nod before quickly averting his gaze. "It's manageable, better than yesterday," I replied carefully, watching the interaction with growing unease. Audrey checked the four-line and produced a small paper cup containing a white pill. "This is the pain medication Dr. Morrison prescribed." Her voice was professionally pleasant. "It works best if taken with plenty of water." I swallowed the pill obediently, and Audrey made several notes in the electronic chart before departing with one last lingering glance at the baby. Jason muttered something about making an urgent work call and followed her out. Alone in the sudden quiet, I felt a wave of unnatural drowsiness crash over me with alarming intensity. This wasn't normal fatigue. The medication felt extraordinarily potent. I struggled to stay alert, fighting against heavy eyelids, but the pharmaceutical fog quickly overwhelmed my defenses. When I finally regained consciousness, a different nurse was standing by the window, gently rocking Oliver in her arms. "Oh, good, you're awake." The unfamiliar nurse smiled kindly. "Your little one was getting hungry, so I've been keeping him comfortable." I squinted at the wall clock in confusion. It was already past noon. I had been unconscious for nearly 4 hours. "That medication hit me like a freight train," I murmured, my thoughts still foggy and disjointed. "That seems unusually strong for a standard painkiller," I said. "Yes, Nurse Parker noted your sensitivity in your chart," the nurse replied, carefully transferring Oliver to my waiting arms. "We'll definitely adjust the dosage going forward." That afternoon, I experienced a frightening shift in my condition. Sudden nausea twisted my stomach while my heart hammered erratically in my chest. Alarmed, I pressed the call button, and within moments Audrey reappeared, her expression professionally concerned. "What's happening?" Audrey asked, immediately reaching for my wrist to check my pulse. "I suddenly feel sick and my heart is racing," I explained, trying to calm my breathing. "I've never experienced anything like this," I said. Audrey took her blood pressure and pressed a cool hand to my forehead with practiced efficiency. "You're running a slight temperature, but that's not uncommon after delivery," Audrey explained, her voice reassuring. "I'll adjust your 4 medication to address these symptoms," she said. As Audrey replaced the 4 bag and made additional notes in my chart, I noticed her discreetly pull out her phone and send a quick text message before leaving the room. The glimpse of Audrey's screen and the contact name Jason sent a chill through me that had nothing to do with my fever. In the evening, Vanessa arrived with Zoe for their first visit with the new baby. Zoe's eyes widened with wonder and delight when she first glimpsed her tiny brother. "Mom, Oliver is so small," Zoe exclaimed, her voice hushed with awe. I wrapped my arm around my daughter's shoulders and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "He is tiny now, but he'll grow quickly." I smiled through my fatigue. "I have a feeling he'll be brilliant like his big sister someday," I said. Vanessa studied me with the dual concern of a friend and physician. "You look worryingly pale, Elena." She frowned, her professional instincts clearly triggered. "Is everything okay?" she asked. I hesitated, then described the unusual drowsiness, the racing heart, and the excessive potency of the medication. Vanessa's expression shifted from concern to alarm. "That doesn't sound right at all." She shook her head firmly. "I should review your chart and speak with the attending physician." Before Vanessa could say more, Audrey swept into the room with perfect timing, her demeanor unnaturally cheerful as she focused on Zoe. "Well, you must be Zoe," Audrey exclaimed with exaggerated warmth. "I've heard so many wonderful things about you from your mother, especially about your amazing science project." I tensed, immediately aware that I had never mentioned Zoe's project to any hospital staff. A warning prickled at the back of my neck as I watched Zoe shrink back slightly, instinctively pressing closer to my side. "I don't recognize this nurse," Zoe whispered, her voice barely audible. "She scares me," Zoe said. Audrey continued as if she hadn't noticed the tension, brightly announcing, "It's time for your evening medication, Mrs. Foster," while extending another small paper cup with a pill. I regarded the medication with growing suspicion, but, not wanting to create a disturbance in front of Zoe, reluctantly accepted it. I palmed the pill discreetly, pretending to swallow it while mentally resolving to dispose of it later. After Audrey finally departed, I turned to Vanessa with urgency in my voice. "Did you notice something off about that nurse?" I asked quietly. "How did she know about Zoe's science project?" Vanessa agreed, her medical professionalism now fully engaged. "That was distinctly odd. She shouldn't have access to personal details like that," I said. Zoe excused herself momentarily, claiming she needed to find a water fountain. When she returned a few minutes later, her expression had transformed into one of worried determination. Once Vanessa stepped out to grab dinner from the hospital cafeteria, Zoe approached my bedside with the serious demeanor that made her seem so much older than her 8 years. "Mom," she whispered, leaning in close. "I've seen that nurse with Dad before." My heart constricted painfully, my worst suspicions crystallizing into reality. "What do you mean, Zoe?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. When exactly? I asked. 2 weeks ago, after my science fair. Zoe's eyes were solemn and certain. Dad was supposed to take me for ice cream to celebrate my first place ribbon. She paused, gathering her thoughts with remarkable clarity for a child. I went to that cafe near the university, and I saw Dad with that nurse at a corner table while I was in line, she said. Her small face hardened with the memory. They were talking really seriously, and Dad looked upset, she added. I felt as though the room had suddenly been drained of oxygen. Jason had told me he was working late with clients that evening, even texting that he couldn't make Zoe's science fair due to an emergency investor meeting. Zoe had no reason to fabricate such a specific encounter and no motive to lie. Later that evening, after Jason's suspiciously brief visit where he barely made eye contact with me, I heard him exit our room. Instead of his footsteps fading down the corridor, however, she detected his distinctive voice engaged in a hushed but intense conversation just outside the door. Though the words were indistinct, the responding voice was unmistakably female and horrifyingly familiar. An icy realization washed over Elena as the pieces began fitting together with terrifying clarity. Sleep eluded me completely that night. My mind raced anxiously, replaying Zoe's words and analyzing every interaction with Audrey and Jason. Morning sunlight streamed through the hospital blinds while Oliver slept peacefully in his bassinet. Watching him, I felt fierce protectiveness alongside the haunting echo of Zoe's revelation. I saw Dad with that nurse. The suspicion gnawed at my heart like acid. She had attributed Jason's emotional distance to work stress, never imagining he might be involved with someone who had access to my medical care. A different nurse performed the morning checkup. Nurse Parker will be taking over again this afternoon, she mentioned casually. She specifically requested to continue with your care. After the medication adjustment, I noticed my mind felt clearer than yesterday. Dr. Ramsey stopped by during rounds. Though pleased with my recovery, he frowned at the notes about my fever and palpitations. I'd like to run additional blood tests, he said decisively. These symptoms warrant investigation. After he left, I called Jason with trembling fingers. He answered on the third ring, his voice instantly wary. Elena? What's wrong? Are you feeling worse? No, I'm fine, I replied steadily. I was wondering if you could join Zoe when she visits today. Jason inhaled sharply. That's going to be difficult, he replied too quickly. I have an investor meeting that can't be rescheduled. I understand. I couldn't hide my disappointment. We'll talk later, I said. After hanging up, I stared blankly at the ceiling. Was my suspicion justified, or was this postpartum paranoia? At noon, Audrey entered with a lunch tray and medication, her smile not reaching her cold, calculating eyes. I brought something special today, she announced, holding up an unmarked pill alongside the regular medication. The doctor prescribed this antibiotic to prevent infection, she said. I stared at the unfamiliar pill with growing unease. Dr. Ramsey had mentioned nothing about antibiotics during his morning examination. Did my doctor specifically order this? I asked, keeping my tone merely curious. Audrey hesitated fractionally. Yes, of course, she recovered smoothly. It's recorded in your chart, she said. Elena took the pill with apparent compliance. I think I'll take this after eating, I said, setting it aside. My stomach feels sensitive. Annoyance flashed across Audrey's face before she composed herself. All right then, she replied, her tone slightly clipped. I'll check back later, she said. The moment Audrey left, I quickly hid the suspicious pill in my bedside drawer, alarmed by my own instincts. At 2 p.m., Vanessa arrived with Zoe, who clutched a handmade card decorated with stars. I embraced my daughter tightly, drawing strength from the contact. Mom, are you really okay? Zoe asked, her eyes studying my face with concern beyond her years. You look worried, she said. I'm just tired, sweetheart. I smiled unconvincingly. Vanessa picked up Oliver from his bassinet, studying my face. I'm going for drinks, she announced, sensing the tension. What would you like? She asked. Zoe, what would you prefer? I deflected. Apple juice, please. Zoe answered. As soon as Vanessa left with Oliver, Zoe's expression turned serious. She moved closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. Mom, I saw that nurse again today with Dad, she said tremulously. They were talking in the hallway, she said. My heart raced. When did you see them? I asked, struggling to remain calm. Just now when we arrived, Zoe replied anxiously. They didn't notice us because Vanessa was showing me the nursery, she said. Zoe's face tightened with worry. Mom, she looked scary, not like when she's pretending to be nice. I squeezed my daughter's hand reassuringly despite my own mounting fear. What do you mean by scary? I asked. Zoe leaned closer, whispering. She told Dad, We're doing it today, perfect timing. Her voice quavered. Dad said, Not yet, too risky. Mom, I think she's planning something bad, she said. Cold realization washed through me as everything connected. The strong medication, Audrey's knowledge of family details, the suspicious pill, and now this conversation. Suddenly, voices approached from the hallway, one distinctly Audrey's. Zoe tensed alertly and darted to the window, quickly drawing the curtains closed. Zoe, what are you doing? I whispered. Without turning, Zoe replied with certainty. Mom, she's coming right now. After closing the curtains, Zoe rushed back to the bed, her expression showing grave determination no 8-year-old should possess. Mom, we need to hide under the bed immediately, she whispered urgently. I recognized the wisdom in my daughter's eyes and didn't question her instinct. I quickly disconnected my four, applying pressure to the insertion site. Zoe, come with me, I whispered, gathering Oliver from his bassinet. I painfully knelt beside the bed, my postpartum body protesting, and maneuvered myself underneath, cradling Oliver protectively. Zoe slid beneath the bed with silent agility, pressing close to my side. The hospital room door opened with a soft click that sounded thunderous in my heightened awareness. Measured footsteps crossed the floor, Audrey's distinctive gait that I had unconsciously memorized. I cradled Oliver against my chest, gently rocking him while willing him to stay silent. Zoe pressed against me, trembling but completely silent, her small body rigid with fear. The footsteps halted beside the bed. Rustling sounds indicated someone touching the pillows and blankets. Where could she possibly have gone? Audrey muttered tensely. My heart hammered violently in my chest. Zoe's small hand pressed firmly over my mouth, ensuring silence. I met Zoe's terrified eyes and nodded slightly. The nurse call button sounded in the quiet room. The patient is missing from room 304, Audrey reported with false concern. The door opened again, and Jason's heavier footsteps entered. What's going on? Jason asked anxiously. Where's Elena? Audrey's voice dropped to a dangerous register. It doesn't matter now. Your problem will be solved with one simple injection, she said. What are you talking about? Jason's voice held genuine confusion. This wasn't the plan, he said. We absolutely planned this, Jason. Audrey's voice became chillingly possessive. You, me, and the baby. We don't need her anymore. Oliver will be ours, she said. I felt ice-cold horror flood my veins as Oliver stirred slightly against my chest. I kissed his forehead desperately, willing him to remain quiet. Zoe's face was pale with fear, yet she remained remarkably still. From our hiding place, I could see Audrey's white nursing clogs and Jason's leather shoes. What are you talking about? Jason's voice cracked with alarm. I only said I wanted to end things. I never suggested harming anyone, he yelled. A small spark of relief flickered in my chest. Jason wasn't complicit in Audrey's murderous scheme. You promised we'd be together. Audrey's voice escalated dangerously. Zoe carefully pointed to the emergency call button on my wristband. I nodded, understanding their silent, desperate plan. If she were gone, we could be a real family, Audrey continued manically. Have you lost your mind? Jason's voice shook with horror. I would never want Elena or my children harmed. Never, he said. Under the bed, I drew my silently weeping daughter closer. Didn't you tell me your marriage was suffocating you? Audrey demanded sharply. I said those things because I felt panicked to become a father with 2 kids, Jason admitted. But seeing Oliver changed everything, Jason said. Audrey, please put that syringe away. We can talk through this, he added. I felt conflicted. His betrayal hurt deeply, but he was now trying to protect us. It's too late, Audrey replied with chilling calm. I've orchestrated everything. Elena's symptoms, the medication. No one will question when she suffers a fatal seizure, she said. Jason made a strangled sound of horror. You're completely delusional, he yelled. Love makes people do extreme things. Audrey responded serenely. I pressed the emergency call button, praying for quick response. I will never allow you to harm Lena or my children, Jason declared firmly. Then you're just another obstacle. Audrey's voice became terrifyingly flat. A sudden struggle erupted with something crashing to the floor. Jason grunted in pain. Audrey, stop. The hospital door burst open forcefully. Is everything okay? The emergency call. A nurse's voice cut through. After a shocked pause, Nurse Parker. What are you doing with that syringe? The nurse yelled. Stay out of this. Audrey snarled. Security to room 304. Emergency, the nurse shouted. Multiple footsteps rushed in as I held Zoe and Oliver tightly. She has a loaded syringe. Someone yelled. After a brief struggle, silence fell. We've secured the situation. The subject is restrained, somebody said. Zoe, it's safe now, I whispered gently. We can come out. I emerged from under the bed with Oliver, guiding Zoe with my free hand. Standing shakily, I faced shocked expressions from 2 nurses, security officers, and Jason. Jason's face bore scratch marks, his shirt torn. Audrey was restrained, struggling wildly, a syringe on the floor nearby. Elena, Jason whispered, stunned. Under the bed, Zoe explained quietly. I knew she was going to hurt Mom, she said. Seeing us, Audrey's struggles intensified. You've ruined everything. She shrieked. We could have been so happy together, she shouted. The officers removed her, her unhinged ranting echoing down the hall. The hospital erupted into controlled chaos as administrators, security personnel, and police descended upon the maternity ward. I, Zoe, and Oliver were immediately moved to a secure room with a guard posted outside. Staff collected the syringe as evidence, and laboratory tests confirmed it contained a lethal dose of morphine. The next morning, Dr. Lawrence, the hospital's chief medical safety officer, met with me. Ms. Parker was hired 8 weeks ago, he explained grimly. She provided falsified credentials and references. He continued solemnly. Background checks have revealed psychiatric hospitalizations and similar incidents at previous facilities that she concealed through credential manipulation. I stroked Zoe's hair, my hands trembling. Why was I targeted specifically? I asked quietly. According to police findings, Dr. Lawrence replied, Ms. Parker developed a relationship with your husband shortly after being hired. She used that connection to gather information about your family and arranged her assignment to your case. He added reluctantly, the investigation suggests she saw you as an obstacle to a delusional future with Mr. Foster and your newborn. Jason waited outside my room, his face etched with shame. After several minutes, he entered uninvited, his shoulders hunched. Elena, please let me explain everything, he began unsteadily. I turned to Zoe. Sweetheart, could you step outside with Dr. Morrison for a few minutes? I said to her. After Zoe left, Jason collapsed into a chair, unable to meet my gaze. I met Audrey at a hospital fundraiser 3 months ago, he confessed. It was when we were barely communicating and I was overwhelmed with work. I tried ending it 4 weeks ago when she became possessive, but she wouldn't accept it, he explained. He finally looked up. I never imagined she was capable of something so monstrous, he said. Your selfish choices nearly cost our children their mother, I replied with unnatural calm. Jason flinched visibly. I know, his voice broke. I don't expect forgiveness. But for Zoe and Oliver's sake, Please give me a chance to make amends, he said. I turned toward the window, my heart simultaneously broken by betrayal and filled with gratitude for Zoe's life-saving intuition. I need time, I finally said. Right now. My only priority is our children, I said. Jason nodded silently and left the room. 3 months later, I sat on the wooden porch swing of my new cottage-style home, watching Zoe collect spring flowers in the garden. Baby Oliver slept peacefully against my chest, his gentle breathing reminding me of life's fragility. The charming cottage near the library was smaller than our previous home, but infinitely more peaceful. Audrey Parker had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and delusional disorder and was confined to a psychiatric facility. Investigations revealed she had magnified her brief relationship with Jason into elaborate fantasies and had caused similar incidents at previous hospitals. Mom, look at this butterfly, Zoe called excitedly, reaching toward the sky. I smiled, seeing her gradually healing. Zoe attended therapy twice weekly, and though occasional nightmares persisted, she had developed pride in being the hero who saved Mom and Oliver. The divorce from Jason had been finalized last month. He had transferred to London, paid child support, but hadn't visited Oliver, maintaining only monthly video calls with Zoe. With Vanessa's help, I had secured full custody and returned to work part-time as the children's department head at the library. The storytelling workshops she led had become a source of joy. I brought some chamomile tea, Vanessa said, emerging with 2 steaming mugs. Thank you, I accepted gratefully. I couldn't have recovered without you, I said. Don't say that, Vanessa replied, settling beside me. You're stronger than you think, and that daughter of yours might be the strongest person I've ever met, she said. I watched Zoe twirling among the flowers, feeling profound pride. She truly saved our lives, I whispered. Through our ordeal, I had discovered that real family bonds were defined by who stood beside me in darkness. The connection between me, Zoe, and Oliver had emerged stronger than before. Mom, Zoe bounded up the steps. Can I hold Oliver? She asked. I carefully transferred the baby to Zoe's waiting arms. I'll always keep you safe, Zoe whispered to him, the promise carrying weight beyond her years. As I watched my children in the spring sunlight, a quiet hope blossomed within me. Our journey ahead would have challenges, but the bond forged through crisis would be our strength.